D.
We're two divorced.
Well, I'm still separated.
Okay. Working parents.
We talk about all the things you get to deal with when your marriage ends, like
Co-parenting.
dating,
Running a household all by yourself.
how early is too early for a good hard drink,
Or a glass of wine. And how do you keep it all together after everything fell apart?
This is
Demarried Life. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Demarried Life. I'm Erin.
And I'm Dee.
And we are here, COVID 2020 style, all in our socially distant, physically distant spaces.
And our
So this is
comfy
a bit-
clothes.
Our comfy clothes, yes. I am wearing pants. I did question it. And as it gets warmer in here, I might make a change. But for now, pants are included. So, Dee, we have a guest today.
We do.
This is exciting. We wanted to bring a male perspective to the party.
Yeah,
So
we thought it shouldn't all be like the lady bitches.
right? We got to bring a man bitch.
Yeah.
So we brought in the biggest man bitch I know. Just kidding.
No, that's fair.
Morgan Cranny is an amazing actor, improver, comedian. He hosts a comedy night. He also works for the government to pay the bills, but he gets to do all that stuff in his spare time. Not sure how he pulls it off. But Morgan, thank you for being here to share with us.
Well, thank you for having me. It's be very fun. And well, I don't know.
We'll
Let's hope it's
see. We're
fun.
going to dig into all the dirty secrets of your divorce. So we'll see how much fun you've had.
Right.
Yeah, TBD on the fun.
Yeah.
So I was thinking about the way divorce feels. I was thinking a lot about that quote, that Maya Angelou quote. I might bring it up very often. People don't remember what you say or did. They remember how you make them feel. And so what I wanted to think about was how you felt.
You're jumping right in there, hey?
Right? Just
Wow.
get right into
Go
it.
for
Rip the Band-Aid off.
When marriage is ending, do you remember what that felt like?
Well, yours is still pretty fresh. Mine's old. Mine's old hat.
Yours is old,
Although-
dead and buried.
Although we're officially divorced on Friday. So we've been separated since January of 2014.
What? It
Yeah.
took that long?
Yeah, we just didn't bother for a long time.
Wow, I thought I was slow. Wow, that's amazing. Okay, well, hey, congratulations. If you're going to get divorced,
Thanks.
this is the year.
Yeah.
Everybody's doing it. It's a fad now. You're on trend.
Yeah, the 2020 casualty.
Yeah.
Just a lemming following the crowd.
Because we were together for 25 years. We were married for 22. It's a long haul. That's a success. I call it a success. But also, you think, you see these other romantic movies and couples, and they're like, we're celebrating 47 years. You're like, well, that won't be me. I won't be one of those love stories.
That's a good point that you make, though, about the idea of the end of a marriage being a failure. It may or may not be a failure. I think a failure might be staying in a relationship forever because you want the happy ending of the movies, and you stay in a happy relationship for the rest of your life because it optically looks perfect.
I mean, one of the reasons I instigated the divorce was because we were approaching our middle age, and we had our two kids, and they were getting older, and we'd become more roommate-like in our existence. And I was like, oh, do I want this for the rest of my life? Is this what I want? And I obviously came to the conclusion that it isn't what I wanted.
I love how you call yourself the instigator. It's like I'm the antagonist. I'm the villain in this story.
There's definitely takes two to tango, but like often it takes one person to recognize that they're unhappy enough to make a change.
Yeah, tilt the scales. Yeah. So Dee, obviously you and I are friends, and we're friends during each of us going through those feelings. You handled your everything the most rationally of anybody I've ever met in my life. I think it's like my story and your story are very different. But do you remember how that whole thing felt emotionally?
Morgan, when you spoke about seeing the movie, or maybe did you say movie, or hearing about people saying, we've celebrated this, and I found myself seeing movies and like rom-coms or whatever, and the storyline is so happily ever after, or there's this love people are celebrating that's gone on forever, and you think to yourself, well, that won't be me, even if you've moved on and you're in a new situation. But it's just, you don't follow the same narrative, you don't follow that fairy tale. I've had points where I saw those scenes and I felt sad, but then I've, lately come around to see them, and they don't make me sad. And when you said it almost merrily, like, well, that won't be me. And I was wondering, I wanted to know, I mean, maybe because you were the instigator, did you feel that a sense of freedom, or was there a lot of grief?
Both. I mean, there was definitely both. I mean, there was really hard times, but it was a while coming. By the time it came time to split, like I had sort of mentally, I had moved on. I just was ready for that change. And so I wouldn't say I was merry about, when I see rom-coms and stuff too, I do have there's a little twinge of sadness.
Was it The Notebook?
No. That'll do it though.
The Notebook, that movie needs to be erased. We need that Men in Black eraser thing, but for The Notebook from all of our psyches.
Yeah. Every once in a while you feel sad about something because you remember a good thing. You married that person for a reason, so you weren't unhappy the whole time.
But I think it's like childbirth, where women just kind of forget the pain of it.
What do you think, Morgan? Is it like childbirth?
Right.
I found childbirth quite easy.
That's the right answer.
I had sex and then it happened. The way your mind sort of erases some of the bad things, you kind of think back and you're like, oh yeah. But frankly, I watch some of these movies where the people have been together 40, 50, whatever years. And I'm just like, that scares the shit out of me, being with the same person that long. And someone having to put up with me that long.
That's a very good point.
Right?
Not like you're a saint either. Like
no, there's two of us at least. Depends on your relationship. That's hard to have a good partner that long, but also be a good partner that long. That's a challenge, I think. We can't all be Barack and Michelle,
No.
Even they had problems.
Yes.
I would hope so. Otherwise, they didn't try hard.
Exactly. So what I remember because I was also the instigator, somebody took a photo of me from behind, which is never a good idea. I don't know who did it, but screw them. But anyway, you could see through my hair from behind. And I'd always had thick, messy hair. And what I realized is my hair was falling out.
Oh.
And my hair was falling out, I assumed, because of stress, because I was like, okay, I'm making the choice to break up a family. I'm making a choice. This is on me. This is all my fault. He, wasn't necessarily on board with that. And so I had to go and get my hair cut off. So my hair was like cut off to here for the first time since I was like 12, because my hair was literally falling out. It was so thin. And I was just kind of going like, I'm physically manifesting this guilt that I have for my kids and for this man that I stood in front of all these people. I promised all these things and now I'm taking it back. Yeah. And I lost a ton of weight during that time, and not in the good way, just stopped eating, just could not eat, anxiety all the time. And it was just such a physical, visceral experience. And then you're meant to carry on your life and you have to keep parenting your kids and all of those things while you're just kind of internally just at odds with yourself.
How old were your kids, Morgan? Do you have kids?
I do. I have two.
And how old were they at the time?
My daughter was finishing 12th grade, so she was 17, and my son was 6. When we came around to it, we both very much care about our children, and that was key to making sure that they understood, maybe especially him, that it had nothing to do with him and that we loved him and we'd make sure he was cared for and he would see us and all that sort of stuff. It was kind of a sadly funny story, is because don't do this. We did it on Boxing Day. Because my ex said, she'd like, well, let's get through Christmas.
Merry Christmas. Guess who's going in the box? It's Daddy.
Because we decided to split in November, but then because of like trying to figure out where you're going to live, what's going to happen, like, let's just get to Christmas and then we'll deal with it. In hindsight, a terrible idea.
Us too. We waited till like January 12th, I think. And then I was like, okay. I can't keep quiet any longer. We have to say something. But weren't you Boxing Day too, Erin?
Yeah, I was. Well, I'm laughing at Boxing Day. So if you're American, I don't know if they have Boxing Day down there, but it's the day after Christmas, December 26th. And I did that same thing. But that was the day we separated, not the day that I told the kids. Okay. But it was just that thing of not wanting to get to the new year and having to like make yet another promise that I couldn't fulfill, and sort of thinking about New Year's. And actually, divorce lawyers, their busiest month in the entire year is January.
Oh, I bet.
Because it's the holidays and it's intense and people are just like, yeah, I'm not doing this again for another year. So I think that's pretty common, but it's also like someday you hear them in therapy going, yeah, and then they broke up on Boxing Day right after Christmas. I was still playing with my Lego.
Well, my situation was pretty different than you two, because I had a brand new baby at the time and 2 other kids.
Oh, right.
So that was different. So people were really worried about me, my family and friends. Obviously really worried.
I think you could have milked it. I don't think you milked it sufficiently. I'd like to raise a formal complaint that I think you really should have milked that. You could have gotten so much more stuff, like seriously, wine and gifts from just everybody.
That's true. I should have hit everybody harder for more pity wine.
exactly.
Yeah. You're probably not thinking about it that well at that time, though. That's the problem.
Yeah, she's probably focused on like the emotions.
I was just trying to get through the time. So, and in fact, people feeling bad for me just made me feel more sorry for myself. So I think what I focused on doing was just, just looking ahead and not dwelling on the past. And then I felt the people, people will, they search you for cues on how they should act. So when people saw me just sort of not wanting to talk about it and not really wanting to kind of wallow, then people just kind of met me where I was and kept it light.
Some of my closest friends had known about some of my unhappiness for a while, so they were not super surprised, and they were very supportive because they were my close friends and that's their job. Other people sort of just kind of disappeared for a little while to let the dust settle, and other people were like they don't know what to say, so they're like, I'm sorry. And I'm like, it's more of a congratulations situation.
I like that. That is totally what it requires.
I don't think anybody's divorce ever goes super fun, happy times. There's always sadness, and just in the figuring stuff out is hard.
Yeah.
Like just who gets what, when, how are you what's the arrangement with the kids, and then like you say, I don't know about you, but obviously I sort of lost friends in the divorce because some were her friends before the marriage, and of course they're going to support her. And then
that is so awkward, that process of who gets who.
Yeah.
Without you don't sit down with like a whiteboard and say, okay, this is the roster and I'm taking this person and that person. But it's an awkward process.
It's like that scene in, the movie Crazy Stupid Love, since we're talking about movies. Another Ryan Gosling. I haven't seen that one. I'm in a Ryan Gosling mood tonight, apparently. But where you haven't seen it, Morgan? Oh,
I
man.
Seen
okay,
it, no.
So there's this scene where there's a recently divorced guy played by Steve Carell. He's been dumped by his wife and he's sitting at the bar just drowning his sorrows. And the male half of their couple friends shows up at the bar, and he has a little Macy's gift bag, and he sits down at the bar, orders a glass of Chardonnay, pounds the glass of Chardonnay, says, "This is for you." I forget the wife's name, said, "We can't be friends anymore. We picked, because she says that we're with her. And so now I can't see you."
Oh, no.
And it's cologne and the receipt's in there.
Cologne, which is
you
so
can return
weird.
it. Yeah. And then he just gets up and leaves and he's like, "I'm so sorry." And you just feel the pain. Like it is just so, you just feel for the guy.
That there's an actual transaction that happens. Yeah. It's really, it's so awkward.
You can return it.
But I found there was that reaction of like, okay, who keeps what friends? But then I also had two other sort of weird things that happened. One was, I called it the creepers come out of the woodwork, where anyone who had been sort of watching your relationship and hoping it might end at some point and they might get a shot, never the people that you're really interested in. They suddenly, they don't want to miss their shot. They're like, boom, what's that? You're having problems? I'm going to swoop in. Right. And I found, and it was staggering, because that's like pretty much one of the last things that you need in that moment. Did either of you experience that?
I call it wounded baby seal. They're just like, wounded baby seal. Phew. They're there. They're all over it. "Can I help you? We want to go for coffee." And it's like, dude, I got like a 1-month-old baby here. No, I don't want to go for coffee.
See, you could have at least converted yours into babysitting, right? Like free babysitting. Like, here's the baby. I'm going for a nap. Good luck.
Yeah,
I'm going to take my pity wine with me.
I think as a man, we don't face that kind of thing the same way. I'm sure
Well, did you have the quiet helpers, the women who were like, "Hey, Morgan."
Ones who drop off the casseroles.
There was probably a couple who were there. Yeah. I mean, in hindsight, there was probably a few but it wasn't so blatant and gross. It was much more subtle. And
well, that's male-female mating dynamics right there, isn't it?
I think there you go. That's it right there. And I'm an idiot. So
casseroles versus dick pics. There's no in between. The other reaction that I really didn't like was the reaction from friends who didn't pick me or him. They just kind of faded away, because they were like, I got a lot of, "Well, our marriage is fine. Our marriage is great. And we're doing great. And I'm just kind of like, well, good. Congratulations."
Yeah. People think it's contagious.
But it's funny because it happened with me, and then it happened with you. And then people are like, "Oh yeah, it's contagious." I'm like, no, it's not. That was coincidence.
Or they thought we were gay together.
Yes, that was the other thing. Yes,
that's the other theory that flies around.
The Shirley thing is, any woman who leaves a man must be a lesbian. There's no other explanation. Wow. Yeah, there was right, but there were weird responses where people just got really protective and kind of scared, and then there were like couples didn't want to hang out with you unless you were also a couple. Like dinner parties suddenly became awkward. And then, so then suddenly single people wanted to hang out with you, but then they would find a partner and then they wouldn't hang out with you anymore. Like just these dynamics are just so messy. It's like, can we all just be human and have fun and hang out, you know?
I definitely noticed a little bit of that worried, like a few of my married friends had that bit of defensive quality, and which made me wonder about their relationship really. Like it didn't even occur to me that but like when it's like you doth protest too much, I think
totally.
Okay, your relationship is fine. It's fine. Okay, stop yelling at me.
Are you talking to me or are you talking to yourself there?
Yeah. Who are you trying to convince?
Because any relationship that's got any length in it is going to have some issues. And surely, it is weird. Sure. Like I remember when my mom said that all their friends started divorcing and it was just like woo, dropping like flies all around them. And she said it was really strange for her and my dad because you kind of look at one another and go, do we still like each other? I like you, but do you still like me? So I get that it creates that tension, but it also, I guess it's just not a great friendship to start with if they're more concerned with how that impacts their own relationship rather than like, how can I help you kind of thing.
Yeah. Some of my friends didn't know how to cope with it. So they seemed to kind of evaporate a little bit. Mm-hmm. And then they came back when the dust had settled. Then you sort of start seeing them around.
Yes.
Right? And some of them were married people, but like at first it was like they didn't want to deal with the drama or any potential drama or whatever. So they just sort of disappeared. And they obviously weren't super close to me, but then you think, hey, I haven't talked to so-and-so. What's going on? And then after a while, when things are sort of more normal, then all of a sudden they're like, hey, Morgan, what are you doing?
Not hanging out with you, asshole.
Yeah.
Like people just go quiet because I know we're all stressed and we all have things going on in our life and it's hard to like step up for other people. But yeah, it's nothing like disappearing during the drama and then showing up after it's all resolved and everything's better to like just pick up where you left off and continue having fun.
Yeah.
We've all, I think to some degree, are on, I would say, the happy side of the whole thing. Like where none of us are in the trenches, so we can all speak openly about it. None of us are in tears, which is wonderful. Obviously, right now, things are tense. People have been going through quarantine together, suddenly spending time together and going, oh, maybe this wasn't the right person. And now that I'm actually spending 24/7 with you, it's not so good. And so there are many people questioning whether now's the time, but also going through that process where they've made the decision and the wheels are in motion. Yeah. So looking at it now, if you could talk to them or go back to even yourself during this whole traumatic phase of this process, what would you say?
Yeah. Oof. Wow.
Yeah, you got to fix it for them because they need your help.
Obviously, if it's just a regular relationship, cases, if it's abusive or whatever, obviously they got to get out of there. COVID or not, you got to find your way out of there, hopefully. But if it's just strictly unrest, I guess, if you're finding your partner is not the person that you want, then maybe that's the time. I still believe even though I've never really had successful therapy, I do believe it's a good option to explore. I do.
Good for you. Relentless optimism. That's a good thing.
You want somebody who has no vested interest other than your check to say, listen, I don't see that you guys are right for each other. You want some sort of perspective on it. And your friends will always side with you in general. It's very hard to find a friend who's truly, I think, give you the honest goods because they want what's best for you. And if they think that getting rid of your spouse is the right thing, they'll say that because they think, well, that's what you want. I'll repeat what you want because I want you to be happy. And hopefully they'll have some presence of mind to go, well, let's think about all the things you have. But a therapist will do that. That's what they'll help you come to those things. So I think doing some online, and this time it's probably online therapy, but at least having those conversations with a stranger who can elicit the questions that maybe you're afraid to bring up with your partner, I think is a really good strategy. Don't stick with somebody longer than is necessary if you really feel that the split is what matters. And if you do have to like ride it out for a while, just be kind to each other as much as possible. Give each other your space. But who knows? I don't know how to, everybody's got such different things. Some splits are very acrimonious. I've had a few friends who've had just the worst, brutal divorces. And I was very lucky. Like my ex was very pragmatic. It was a very pragmatic split, which wanted to keep the costs of the split down. And we wanted to just make sure that everybody was taken care of. We even did a thing where for the first 10 months, we rented an apartment and every other week, the single one would go to live at the apartment and the other one would stay with the kids at the house.
The bird's nest parenting.
Yeah.
I tried to do that. I got shot down, but that's a cool approach for sure.
It worked really well for us. And then she was able to find a place that was affordable that allowed her to have enough room for the kids. And then the kids started going back and forth. But that initial thing, I think, was really valuable. So I would highly recommend looking at that option for anybody who's in that situation. Because the key thing about when you're splitting, and I feel like you guys would agree, is that you do need your space to help process what's going on, accept the fact that you're now not married anymore and all those things in it. And when you're cohabitating, it's even if you're in a different room or in the basement or something, I think it's very hard. I know my mom and dad lived together in separate floors of the house for a year and it was not great.
We did that. My ex and I was down in the suite in our house and I was upstairs. And one night I was going through a lot, right? And I just had all this tension. So I jumped on my bed and started dancing and I had headphones in. So I wasn't really aware of the noise that I was making. And I was jumping on my bed and then jumping off the bed, just all going, woo, like full out to a song. And then the song ended and I took my headphones out and I got this nasty text from my ex. He's like, "Are you fucking somebody up there?" Like, yes, I am. I snuck them in through my second story window, fucked them, and sent them back out. So the cohabitation, it was great for the kids, but maybe not great for our mental health.
Yeah.
Do you have an amazing therapist who helped you through things? She's so amazing that I go see her now too.
I've referred like 4 friends.
Yeah, you should just get free therapy from now on.
Free therapy for life. Yeah.
What were some of the biggest things? Because I know she told you so many great things, but what were some of the big things that helped get you through?
She would always give me a little assignment every week, just a small, because it can feel so overwhelming. You're like, what am I going to do? It's just so easy to get kind of, overwhelmed. I just said it. Every week at the end of the session, I would say like, okay, well, like, what can I do? Like, what should I do? And she would just give me one thing to focus on for that week, whether it would be like, visit the lawyer and get the separation agreement done, go and do one nice thing for yourself, whatever it was. And that really helped because it just gives you something to focus on. And most of the time, actually, I use the separation agreement as an example, but I think most of the time the tasks were like not really related to the breakup. They were just more related to like myself.
Right.
So it was just these little mini missions to do towards like rebuilding.
And that keeps you from going 1,000 steps ahead and worrying like, I was like, okay, when they go to university, what is going to happen then? It's like, nope, right. You're not going to resolve that right now. So back up. My therapist was really funny when I was still at the stage where I wasn't sure if we were going to go through it or not. It was this year where we were still in the same house and I was having sex with random men in my bedroom. No, secretly listening to Taylor Swift, which was equally embarrassing. But I remember her saying like, okay, so you do this now. I was, mid to late 30s, whenever that was. And you do this now, or you wait another 10, 15 years. You wait until your kids are all grown up and they've moved out. And then what kind of bitch are you going to be by then? And I was like, pardon me? Like, what kind of bitch am I now? She's like, no, I mean, you feel the way you feel now, but if you just sort of delay the end for whatever reason, you think it's better for the kids or you're scared to do it or whatever, what are you going to be and what will you have lost? And she said, I have so many women and men that come in here and they're divorcing in their 50s or 60s and they wish they'd done it sooner. And it's better that they're doing it now than never, but still their message to everyone. And I've actually had people say this to me directly saying, I wish I'd done it when you're doing it. So there's never.
Tinder's scary enough as it is. Just imagine the older you get, I don't even want to think of.
Okay. Have you ever, Morgan, used any of the apps or did you meet your new partner before that was really a thing, or you're just too much of a gentleman?
I didn't use any of the apps. And I'd known my partner before. So it was just through friends. So we were able to meet through friends, like old fashioned way. I'm terrified of those apps because I don't think I can live up to them. Like I don't have any pictures of me holding a fish.
Well, that's the thing. Yeah, you need the fish shot, but that's easy to take care of.
We can get you a fish.
Yeah, you can get me a fish right on. Okay, good. I just saw a funny thing on Twitter that there was women holding up their sex toys like they were fish.
That's
just
amazing.
tickled me. I thought it was very funny. But,
that's amazing. I one time did change my settings so that I would only get like men who are 65 plus or something like that.
Oh.
It was terrifying. They all wanted like 20-year-olds. I missed a whole bunch. I set my age younger. I tweaked my age because I wasn't getting as many. And then when I went into my like early 20s, there were so many more. It was so creepy. So I do endorse just setting up an account for fun.
Yeah.
If you're secure in your relationship and you're not going to accidentally screw it up.
Right.
But just to see what people are dealing with. That's another thing. Are you ready to go for a divorce? Go on Tinder and see what else is out there.
They should have a mock Tinder just to so you go through. It's a little course you take.
But all that being said, when it's time for it to end, however that comes to be, if it ends, it ends, and it needs to end. It ends for a reason, and it's important whether or not there are other fish in the sea or other dick pic sending men holding fish in the sea. You're often better off alone than being with the wrong person.
Absolutely. It's funny you say dick pics. I wouldn't send my partner a dick pic if she asked because I wouldn't trust her. I don't understand men who do it. I don't get it.
What about the disappearing mode in the Instagram DM where it just flashes up there for 5 seconds and then poof, it's gone?
Even then, I don't.
She'd have to be really quick on the screenshot.
She'd have to really convince me that she wanted that.
By the time she knew what she was looking at, it would be gone.
And Morgan, they're unsolicited. This is the thing.
Yeah, exactly.
They're unsolicited. So question for you, Morgan. So you have been acting in improv and comedy for many, many years now. So through this whole phase and sort of your rebirth as after 2 decades of being single again, how did that affect your sort of your comedy and your storytelling? Did that filter into it at all?
It really did at first. So the tricky part at first was I had a bunch of my comedy is very self-referential. A lot of it self-deprecating, and a lot of it, part of that self-deprecation was my relationship with my ex. And so trying to massage those jokes to not make me sound like a complete asshole to her, because I'm not trying to do that. And now when we were married, it made sense that sure, you can talk, there's some artistic license you can have because you're partners, and presumably it's said with love at that point. But when you're not together anymore, there's no love in that. And then it just becomes mean-spirited. So I was like, oh, there's a few jokes I have to toss and others I'll have to rework.
Did you run the jokes by her then, that, the ones that you reworked? Or
my ex? No, I just changed them enough that they didn't have anything to do with her. I didn't have a very good track record of running them by her before I said them in the first place.
How about the marriage jokes?
No, because it was usually me was the butt of the joke. It was very seldom was the butt of the joke was her. And if it was a combined butt. It was more like a... making fun of us as a couple. Yeah. We were the combined butt of the joke.
That's what happens when you've been married too long. You've been sitting on the couch too long together. Your asses just kind of become conjoined. And that's when you know it's time to pull the plug.
Yeah.
Yeah. Dee, how did your whole process affect you in anything that you were doing, writing or whatnot?
Well, there's nothing like going through hard times to galvanize your sense of humor.
Right?
I would say it improved all of my creative exploits.
I talk about one dirty little secret is when you're co-parenting, you have half the time to yourself if you've got a 50-50 split.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
But also if you're single, you have more time, I find, to work on those creative endeavors and do those projects that you want to focus on without feeling guilty that you're neglecting someone or whatnot. You just get to have that selfish, creative time, which is a lovely gift.
It's the emotional time too. It's not just the physical time. If you have your kids 50-50, and some people don't, and they have their kids full time. But I found if you're in a relationship where the relationship is not good, you spend so much time distracted with, the conflict or the things that are said or the things that aren't said. And you're just so wrapped up in what's not working about the relationship that it just wastes your time. And it's time that could be freed up, doing more positive and productive things.
Totally.
I feel very fortunate in that my ex made the divorce part or the separation part as painless as I think was possible. I'm just glad we were able to get through it in as mature a way as we were able to do it. And I think part of that stems from the fact that we were together for so long. And a big part of it stems from the fact that we both care about our kids a great deal and wanted to make sure that they were taken care of in a good way. And we still do that. I don't know about you, but when we got together so young, we had a child at 26, and I think we were children ourselves. What were we, that's nuts. Of course, we didn't plan her. Neither of my children were planned.
Do you want to talk about your son and how that happened?
When my daughter was 10, I talked to my ex if she wanted to have any more kids. She said, no, I'm done. And like you talked about the childbirth thing, she's like, these women who say they forget childbirth, I remember everything. Because my daughter was a hard birth, and she's like, no, I don't get that at all. So she's like, no more kids. And I was like, okay, well, it's your body. And, we had a really good discussion. So I decided I went and had a vasectomy because that's easier than the other options. And it was easy. Even though there was there's a comical story.
I want to hear the funny
that,
vasectomy story.
Share with you another time. So it just has to do with lots of not using enough freezing, me forgetting to bring anesthetic.
You have to bring anesthetic to your own vasectomy?
So what happens is they give you a kit. They give you a prescription. And what I thought it was for pain meds and stuff like that, but it's free anesthetic. So you're supposed to fill it before you go and then bring it to the doctor. And he then takes the anesthetic out and gives it to you. And there is some painkillers and stuff, but I didn't know. So when I arrived at my vasectomy, he's like, so did you bring the kit with you? And I was like, oh no, my wife's gone to get it while I'm here. And he's like, oh, well, it has the anesthetic. And I was like, oh no.
So what in that moment is he like, we'll continue without it? Like we're going in dry or what?
No, but what he did was he literally went, I think I have some here. Like he kind of rolled his eyes and made it sound.
But I'm going to be really stingy with it to punish you.
Every time I tell this, women are like, oh, you poor baby. But it was kind of alarming to me. So he left the room to go get the anesthetic. He said, get undressed from the waist down and hop up on the table. So I just whipped my pants down and he came back in the room right then with I just felt very exposed all of a sudden. And I was like, oh, and I felt like I should cover myself, even though he's going to touch and cut things. Anyway, I just felt really embarrassed. And then he was like, oh, and then he went back out. And then I got it back on the table and I looked at the door and I could see that the door opened to the lobby area. Like, luckily not where the people sit, but they just sat around the corner. So, but if you went to pay a bill or book a thing and looked behind you there, I'd be like,
hello, ladies.
Yeah. And then when he came back, he had an assistant with him. He didn't ask if she could watch. He just walked
That
in.
was part of your punishment for forgetting the kit.
Yeah, he's like, we're gonna fuck with this guy. Watch this. Come on in.
Yeah. So do you mind if she watches? I was like, well, I guess she's seen the wizard behind the curtain. So come on in. So he's like, you may feel a gentle tugging. So as after the anesthetics were done, so as he's operating, I feel a gentle tugging, like to the point where I'm like, ugh. He's like, are you okay? I'm like, I think I feel something. He's like, ugh. So he gives me some more anesthetic. And then finally, when everything was settled, it went very smoothly. Everything was fine. But I didn't, after a month, you're supposed to, try her out a few times. And then you're supposed to have protected sex. In my case, no sex. And then
because you're getting rid of the backlog, right? Like you got to clear the back issues.
Yeah. You got to clear the pipes, as it were. So then after the requisite amount of times, I went in for my test. And he said, oh, you still got some swimmers here. So wait another month, continue to practice safe sex and then get tested again. So I did. I followed the instructions almost to the letter, except for on Valentine's Day, I'd made dinner, a bottle of wine. One thing led to another, some bad math, no condoms, and I knocked her up.
That one lonely sperm, that one left.
Turns out that he didn't cut all of the right tubes, or I grew back together or something like that. So yeah, I've had 2 vasectomies now. The second one worked. But yeah, 9 months later, my son was born.
Vasectomy fail. I am so glad. I'm so glad we talked about this.
So I have a question as a woman who's will never go through this. Testing. Is that doing it in a cup?
Yes.
Yes. Oh.
Which is its own special treat because you don't do it in the office. Luckily, I don't even know if I could. Not in the lobby. Please, sir, stand here. They give you a little cup and they tell you but you have to write the time on it, and then you have to keep it warm and get it to the clinic within 30 minutes.
How did you keep it warm?
Under my arm. I put it under my arm. And then when you drop it off, you have to go, I have a timed delivery. And then you can just give it to them.
Did you say it like that? I have a timed delivery.
Well, that's the thing. I was like, I'm so nervous. I was just like, I have a timed delivery. Wink, I don't think I winked.
They love when you wink at them while you're holding semen. Yeah. They love that.
Especially when you produce it from your armpit.
They know exactly what you were doing 20 minutes ago. They're like, oh, I see.
Do you make eye contact with that person? I don't think I would make eye contact with. Yeah,
I don't know what they look like. I could have given it to a cactus. I don't know.
Did you remember the kit? when you went for your second vasectomy?
The second one, I did remember the kid. Everything went much smoother the second time. Although the funny part was when because I went to the same urologist, and I went in, I said, I need another vasectomy. The first one failed. He goes, oh, I'm glad you come in. You'd hate to find out that the hard way. And I was like,
I did actually.
And I'm suing you for my kid's bills for the rest of his life.
You can't. It's free. And it's my fault. I didn't follow all the instructions. He told me not to. And I believe that a vasectomy was a pretty permanent operation. I was like, what could go wrong? You're cutting the things. How could that fail?
This is a lesson to women out there.
Remarkable number of times.
Yeah, don't trust the vasectomy. And maybe us women need our own little testing kits before we get your new partner to come in with the thing under his arm and be like, okay, hand it over. We're going to test this before I trust you.
Look under a microscope.
You keep your Valentine's wine to yourself, mister, until this is sorted.
Yeah. Oh man.
I know someone too. Although in his case, he didn't wait the 3. It was like, I think they say 3 months, right?
Well, it's 25 ejaculations. You're supposed to wait 25 ejaculations. So I waited the whole week.
But are all ejaculations created equal? Because no. Right? Mathematically, you think someone
would be... You missed the joke there, Aaron.
Oh, what did... Oh, I missed it.
I said 25 ejaculations. I waited the whole week to go get tested. Hey-o.
You go in with your little cup and your hands are just calloused as shit.
And there's one microscopic drop in the cup.
Yeah.
That was all I had.
You got the last of it.
It's just dust.
It's glitter. It's one single speck of glitter.
Yeah. That's all it took. Any of your listeners who are men or who have partners who are men, go do it. It's super easy. And you get to sit on the couch for a few days with ice on your nuts and it's fine.
And you did it twice. So if anyone knows, it's
and
you.
I did it twice. Yeah. And mine didn't even go that well. Obviously the first time was a bit of a tricky business, but even that wasn't that bad.
It wasn't shoving a human being out your ass, right?
Nope.
That's how it works.
Nope. It's far easier than that.
Yeah. Dee, do you have any other thoughts before we wrap up now that we know so much about vasectomies? So happy
we got this little chestnut out of the interview, though.
This is what happens when you talk to men about stuff. That's amazing. I love learning about stuff that I'll never have to deal with firsthand. It's amazing.
Have you told your son that? I guess he's not. Oh yeah, he would be old enough now. Have you told him?
Not directly, no.
No.
I think he saw a comedy bit that alluded to it. But I haven't really broke because I don't really want to. Hey, by the way, son, you were a complete accident. It's like just let him learn in the comedy special, like the rest of
us. or this episode, if he listens.
Or this episode.
Totally.
What's that?
My mom knew she was an accident, so I think there's a point where it's like I was so meant to be that I overcame every health barrier that there was out there. I was just so meant to be here.
That kid is going to do great things. Think of the barriers he's going to knock down. I swam through a broken pipe.
You did the leap like those movies where they jump over the broken bridge like Speed.
That's what he did. Has he ever tried pole jumping? You should get into that. Is it pole jumping?
Oh, yeah.
You use the stick and you fly high jump. You should try vaulting. Pole vaulting.
Dee's not a track and field person.
I don't do sports.
No. A hilarious thing, or I think it's hilarious that when he was born, he was such an easy birth that my ex was like, oh, if our daughter had been this easy, I would have had more kids. Like he practically fell out. He was just a 9-pound fellow.
You had one of those, didn't you, Aaron? Didn't it take you 5 minutes or something?
Yeah, my first, it was 2 hours of pushing. And my second, it was basically, I put my leg up and kind of fired her across the room and the nurses got her. The doctor had no time to get to the hospital.
Big net.
It's a little bit easier the second time.
Much better than hours and hours and hours, yeah.
Well, Morgan, thank you. Thank you for taking the time to chat with us and being open and authentic and sharing your stories, even talking about your balls.
Yeah.
Thank you for talking about your balls as well.
The least I could do.
Thank you so much for making the time to listen. We know you have way too much going on.
If you can spare a little more time, though, please follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Demarried Life or visit us at demarriedlife.com for all of our episodes, articles, and lots of other great ideas for living a post-married life that isn't a total shit show.
See you there.